In tonight's episode, we're heading deep into the northern hills of Thailand, to the quiet city of Chiang Mai, a place known for its temples, its tranquility, and one story that refuses to stay buried. This story takes place inside a university dormitory, a women's dorm, a building full of laughter, late-night gossip, and study sessions, until one room turned everything cold. Room 409? No one says the name out loud anymore. Not because they've forgotten, but because they remember too well. It started with a single post, a student, a suicide, and a door that was never meant to open again. But the truly disturbing part? Her story didn't end with her death. That's when the real horror began. Because some rooms don't just hold memories. Some rooms hold on to the dead. So, what really happened inside room 409, and why does the school pretend it never existed? Tonight, we step closer to the door, but you might regret opening it. Her name was May, 19 years old, first year at Chiang Mai University. She had just moved away from her small hometown, eager to start her life. The kind of quiet girl who always carried a notebook, always kept to herself, always seemed like she was thinking of something she could never quite say. Her parents were proud, the first in the family to go to university. They dropped her off at the dorm with hugs, snacks, and a folded envelope of emergency cash. And then they drove away. The dormitory was an older building, built decades ago, faded paint, fluorescent lights that flickered more than they worked. But it was safe, cheap, filled with other girls who, just like May, were stepping into their futures. She was assigned to room 409, top floor, end of the hallway. It had a view of the mountains, a wide window that let in the morning sun, and something else. May didn't say anything at first, not when the lock on the door stuck every time, not when she swore she heard whispers from the pipes, not even when she started waking up at exactly 3:12 every morning, heart pounding, room ice cold. She wrote it all down in a notebook, but no one ever read it, because a few weeks into the semester, May stopped talking altogether. She missed lectures, ignored texts, wouldn't open the door. Her roommate had already moved out, said she didn't like the way May stared at the window at night, didn't like the way the air felt heavy in that room, like something was breathing with them. Eventually, someone called the front desk. When staff opened room 409, they found May hanging from the ceiling. No note, no explanation, just a girl suspended in the silence. And that's when the story could have ended. But it didn't. Because just days after May's body was taken away, the next girl moved into room 409. And that's when the footsteps started. The new girl's name was Lynn, a transfer student from Bangkok, bold, practical, and not the type to scare easily. She arrived at the dorm with 2 suitcases and a Bluetooth speaker blasting pop music. When the front desk handed her the key to room 409, the staff member froze for just a second. Just a flicker. A small pause in the middle of an otherwise cheerful welcome. "You'll be on the 4th floor," the woman said. "End of the hall." "Room 409? Lynn asked, reading the number on the key. The woman didn't answer right away. Then, with a too tight smile, she nodded. "Yes, that's right." That was the first odd thing. The second came as soon as Lynn stepped into the hallway. The 4th floor was quieter than the rest of the building. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you feel like you're being watched. And even though it was the middle of the afternoon, the hallway lights flickered, just once, as she walked toward her room. Room 409 was clean, empty. Just a single bed, a small desk, and that wide window looking out toward the mountains. But the air inside was stale. Not like dust or mold, more like something had been trapped in there for too long. Still, Lynn was determined. She unpacked, played music, hung up photos. That night, she brushed her teeth in the shared bathroom at the end of the hall. Another girl entered, paused when she saw Lynn, then asked casually, "Which room are you in?" 409. The girl froze. She didn't say anything, didn't even nod. Just quickly turned off the tap and left, face pale and silent. Lynn blinked, confused. She went back to her room, but when she stepped inside, her phone, which had been charging on the desk, suddenly lit up with a voice recording. She hadn't touched the recorder. She hadn't even opened the app. The audio was short. It sounded like someone breathing. Ragged. Shallow. And then a faint whisper. She played it twice. Couldn't make out the words. She deleted it. Must be a glitch, she thought. But that night, she woke up at exactly 3:12. Room freezing. Curtains moving. And the window? It was locked. But somehow, it was open. The next day, Lynn went to class with heavy eyes. She hadn't slept much. Something about that cold 3:12 wake-up had her on edge. Still, she shrugged it off. She wasn't going to be that girl, the one who freaks out over old buildings and power surges. But the second night was worse. Again, she woke up. Same time, same cold air, except this time, she heard something. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, pacing just outside her door. She sat up in bed, straining to listen. The steps paused, then continued again. Back and forth, back and forth. She texted a friend across the hall. "Hey, are you up?" No answer. She tiptoed to the door and looked through the peephole. Nothing. Just an empty hallway. But as she turned away, she heard the sound of something brushing against her door. Not a knock, not a scratch, more like fingers. She didn't sleep after that. By morning, she was pale and quiet. At breakfast, she sat alone until one of the dorm staff, an older woman with sharp eyes and a gold necklace of Buddha charms, came over and sat down across from her. "You're in 409, the woman said. Not a question. Lynn looked up slowly. "Yeah." The woman didn't blink. "Do you know what happened in that room?" Lynn shook her head. The woman leaned closer. "That room was supposed to stay empty." Before Lynn could respond, another staff member younger, wearing a pressed uniform, rushed over and interrupted. "We don't talk about that," she snapped. Then, with a forced smile, turned to Lynn. "Ignore her. She's just superstitious. There's nothing wrong with the room." But the older woman didn't move. She placed a small white packet on the table in front of Lynn. "Salt, tied with red string. Keep this by your window," she said. Tonight, that night, Lynn did what she was told. She placed the salt packet on the windowsill and crawled into bed. But when she woke again, yes, at 3:12, the salt was gone. The window was open. And this time, she wasn't alone. At the edge of the bed stood a girl. Pale skin, long black hair hanging wet over her face. Neck covered in dark purple bruises. Eyes empty, hollow. Lynn couldn't move, couldn't scream. The girl tilted her head, then vanished. Lynn didn't sleep the rest of the night. She spent the morning in the library, researching old campus incidents. There wasn't much online, but she found an archived forum post, barely visible, almost deleted. The title read, "They Never Cleansed 409." The post mentioned a girl who had died years ago. No name, no details, just one line that stuck with her. She kept staring at the window like something outside was calling her. Lynn didn't go back to her room that night. She stayed with a friend. But even there, she couldn't shake the cold. Because that evening, while brushing her teeth in the bathroom, the mirror fogged up. And on the glass, a single message appeared. "Why did you open the door?" Lynn couldn't take it anymore. She marched straight to the front desk the next morning, pale, exhausted, eyes twitching with fear and frustration. "I want to change rooms," she said. "Today." The younger staff member from earlier looked up, hesitated, and said, "All rooms are full right now." Lynn didn't believe her. Before she could argue, the older staff woman, the one with the Buddha necklace, stepped in quietly. "Come with me," she said. Lynn followed her through a side hallway, past the dorm kitchens, and down a narrow staircase that led to a basement room filled with cleaning supplies and old furniture. In the center of the room sat a low wooden table. Candles. Incense. a small brass bowl of water. The woman knelt, gestured for Lynn to do the same, and began to chant. Low, deep, in a language Lynn didn't fully understand. Smoke coiled around them, the room thick with the scent of burning herbs. Then she opened her eyes. "She's not gone," the woman whispered. "They pretended to bless the room, but it wasn't enough. The window was never meant to face that mountain. It's a calling point, a place where spirits wait." Lynn's skin turned to ice. The woman took out an old photo, black and white, faded with time. It showed a girl, long hair, same pale face, standing near the dorm window. "She was already seeing things before she died," the woman said. "She told people something was watching her from the tree line." Lynn's voice cracked. "What does she want from me?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she handed Lynn a small talisman wrapped in cloth and ash. "You must place this under your bed before nightfall, and whatever you do, if she speaks to you, don't answer." That night, Lynn returned to room 409 one last time. She placed the talisman under the bed, locked the window, and sat perfectly still. But at 3:12, the lock clicked open. The window creaked, and the voice came again. Soft, whispering. "Let me in." And this time, it knew her name. The next morning, Lynn didn't go to class. She went back to the basement. The older staff woman was already waiting, lighting more incense, placing bowls of rice around the table. Without looking up, she said, "She spoke to you, didn't she?" Lynn nodded slowly. "I didn't answer," she whispered, "but she said my name." The woman sighed, then finally explained. "Years ago, that room was used for isolation. Girls who broke curfew, who got into fights, who saw things. The university never admitted it, but they used to send troubled students there. May was one of them. She'd stopped sleeping, said something was coming through the window at night." Lynn's blood ran cold. "She said it called to her," the woman continued, "and one night she let it in." That line struck Lynn like ice water. "She didn't just die in that room," the woman said. "She became part of it, and every girl who stays there after her, she sees them, chooses one, follows them." Lynn whispered, "But why me?" The woman looked at her. "Because you're listening?" Then she reached into a drawer and pulled out a list. Handwritten, dozens of names. All girls who stayed in 409, most transferred, a few dropped out, one disappeared. Lynn scanned the list. May's name was at the top. There was no record of a cleansing ritual. No priest, no temple visit. Just silence. Officially, May's death had been written off as a suicide. Nothing supernatural, nothing strange. But unofficially, in whispered warnings and backroom rituals, the truth was passed down. Room 409 wasn't haunted by memory. It was occupied. And now, Lynn was part of that story. That night, Lynn packed her things. She didn't tell anyone, didn't wait for approvals. She just zipped up her suitcase, threw her books into a bag, and left room 409 for the last time. The window was open again. She didn't close it. Downstairs, she slipped the dorm key onto the front desk. No one was there. Just the low hum of the vending machine and the flicker of a dying light overhead. She stepped out into the night air, heart pounding, every shadow feeling too close. She didn't go home. She went to a hostel across town where the windows faced the street and the rooms were full of noise and life. She didn't dream that night. But just before sunrise, her phone lit up. A new voice recording. She hadn't opened the app. She hadn't touched anything. With shaking hands, she pressed play. Breathing. Static. And then, a voice. Don't think leaving means she can't follow. The recording ended, and in the silence that followed, Lynn realized something. The air around her was cold, and the window, the one she had checked twice before going to sleep, was open again. Some doors, once opened, never close. And room 409? It may be empty now, but she's still waiting.